happy. As we enter the third and final hour, we've got Senator Brice Wiggins from District 52. State Senator Wiggins, how are you today, sir?
Doing fine. I got to give Rhino props there. You got Motley Crue, had police earlier. I mean, it's good. I like it. Good job, Rhino.
He's awesome. Thank you, Senator, for that. So, a lot of stuff obviously going on. We're getting some reports. We're getting some reports. There's no shortage of content to talk about, I can tell you, Brice, when I come in here, that's for sure. We're getting some reports that perhaps the governor is expected to name appointments to the post of running MDOC and DHS today. Have you heard that?
I have not. Of course, those have to be confirmed by the Senate.
Sure.
So people just understand that those are, I guess you indicated, nominations. And if he is doing that, that's great. And look forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Well, so do we. And, it's not like he hadn't had other stuff on his plate in the meantime. I think he was on track to get that done, frankly, much sooner. But Lord only knows right. the extent to which this situation has consumed him and frankly, everybody in government to this point.
Well, and I've had that conversation with his staff about, getting people in place because we have, at the end of the day, we got a government to run, and that includes the people at the top of these agencies, and the Senate has its constitutional duty to confirm or not confirm, depending on the case, these folks so that they can get in there and do the job that the citizens expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that might round out the remaining agencies that are currently without a head, if I'm not mistaken. I know we have is that right?
My recollection is DHS. Well, I guess DHS is there. So yep. MDOC, and you said who was the other?
Well, those are the two that the rumors going around today. I guess you could call it a rumor that he's expected to name as nominees today. Of course, last week he named someone as the interim director of Mississippi Development Authority, and so I'm not sure if they're. Yeah, that's in place. So I think that's where we are. So, Senator, you guys passed this small business relief, part of the coronavirus relief fund of tranche of funds that the state received, $1.25 billion, went through the House and the Senate and is now sitting on the governor's desk. Do you expect him to sign it?
Well, I certainly would hope he would. He needs to, in the sense that, the people are waiting on it. And look, I have no indication, and I wouldn't expect anything other than him signing it. During the process, his office and his folks had input into the bill. And so, you can't say that they weren't aware of what was going on. And look, I'm setting aside all the stuff that transpired before then. We got to where we were hammering out and negotiating a bill that by my constituents has been received very well, and I think has been received well across the state. And when the whole situation started, I was the first one one of the first ones to say that we needed the input of the governor's office. The executive and the legislative branches needed to work together on this because it was about the people and getting the money to them. And, nothing's changed in that regard.
Yeah, and I know it was in the news cycle for a few days. It appeared that there was a fairly intense conflict. I'm not sure if it was as intense and contentious and confrontational as the media sensationalized it. But at the end of the day,
Yeah,
Go
as I
ahead, Senator.
said back then, I said back then, people are watching your government at work. It was a
Yeah,
legislative, executive,
yeah.
back and forth. And you have three separate branches, checks and balances that each have a role to play. And you want to talk about conservative, and you want to talk about constitutionalist. There you have it. Is you got your three branches expressing their will, but it's incumbent upon the leaders to come to an understanding for the benefit of the citizens that we represent.
And I know there was a lot of concern about this thing getting stuck in the legislature, and even the governor made some comments about, you understand how the sausage is made in the legislature, and the workflow, and just how that could last a long time, and we got to get money out to people today. But at the end of the day, I got to tell you that the bill itself looks very much in line with what he had been proposing in terms of a high-level conceptual perspective. It seems like there's an alignment, shall we say, between the branches on this legislation.
I mean, I think so. We were all talking about small businesses, which that's the governor was, and we were talking about getting the money quickly. We didn't have any disagreement on that. When I say we, I'm talking between the two branches.
Yeah.
And as in anything, this you get down into the weeds, and there may be some differences. Mind you, there was money put in reserve, if you will, for the governor to tap into for an emergency situations as we go. There's still, I think it's 900 million in there to be appropriated. So it's about being smart and going through this. Yes, we need to get the money out. We've been doing that. Or I'm sorry, we've been working on that, but we have to be smart about it too. And I think that's where the process came in and worked, honestly.
And it appears that way to me as well, and that seems to be in the rear view mirror at this point. So if the governor, how long does he have now? Is it tomorrow, I think, to sign it? Is that right?
I think that's right. Yes, I think so.
And I guess for the benefit of our listeners, that some of whom are counting on the first sort of automatic disbursement of $2,000 that would go to the businesses that fall into certain industry categories that were among those shut down. The question, of course, is how long after the governor signs. I don't mean to put you on the spot on that. I know a lot of stuff has to happen in the background, but what have you guys talked about as far as how long it'd take to get that first 2,000?
I can tell you this. Yeah, sorry. And for the benefit of the listeners, if they don't already know, there was actually two programs, and there's the one program that is immediate $2,000. That's essentially called the relief program that's going through the DFA agency. And then there's the business relief program, which is the grant program that's going through MDA. And under the first program, the $2,000, that's really limited to what you would consider your retail small businesses, your barbershops, your salons, things like that. And the other program is for others. I guess it can be them as well, but also all the other small businesses. And that's going to take a little more documentation, if you will. So I've been telling my constituents to plan on at least a week before you get information as to where to apply and how to apply. During the debate in the Senate, there was encouragement from different senators that it be made as simple as possible, like a one-pager, if you will, to make the application. Because whether you're the governor's office, the lieutenant governor, the legislature, we all want people to be having that money in their pockets or in their businesses. And I said a week. If the governor hasn't signed it yet, I think it's a week from the time he signs it, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a break coming up. Can you stay with us, Senator, through the break for another segment? That'd be great.
Sure,
We're going to take a
definitely.
break here. Thank you, Senator. We're going to take a break. We've got Senator Brice Wiggins from District 52. He'll come back with us after this break on the JT Show, Super Talk.
Boston,
Thanks
that's
for that,
right.
Rhino.
Rhino, nice.
How about that, Bryce?
That Boston, that you can't go wrong there. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
3 of the top albums ever made. So there you have it.
No question. So we're talking with Senator Brice Wiggins from District 52 in the state of Mississippi. We were talking a little bit about this small business relief that has passed both houses and is now sitting on the governor's desk to be enacted into law.
Oh,
and as
Gerard, let me say, during the break,
Yeah.
I was corrected, or I was reminded by my House colleagues that the governor has until midnight tonight to sign the bill.
Okay, midnight tonight. Thanks for that clarification. I couldn't remember if it was today or tonight. It's 5 days, is it not, once it goes to the governor's
That's right.
office? Okay, so anyhow, so what happens, Bryce, if he comes back and says, well, I don't like this, that, and the other, we need to make some adjustments? You guys aren't in session, right? What happens?
Well, actually, I think he's got to veto it if he's going to go down that road.
Okay.
And technically, we are in session.
Okay.
What we did when we broke for the because of coronavirus, we took a break and gave the speaker and the lieutenant governor the authority to call us back and to do that. That's why they've been able to do that.
Okay.
So
I got you.
and then when we were up there last week, we had adopted a new calendar, if you will, for the remainder of the session. So technically, we are in session, and honestly, that back when we were going through that back and forth with the governor's office, I pointed out that a thing that was different now as compared to Katrina was we were in session now versus when Katrina and the other things came and the legislature was out of session. Mm-hmm. So we could take up things as needed, if you will.
Yeah, makes total sense. And so, and you were explaining there's 2 tracks in the bill. Just a reminder: the first track is this automatic $2,000 that goes out to every business that was essentially ordered closed, and the
I'm sorry, the ones that are listed in the bill, which is basically your small business retailers. That's correct.
Right. Yeah, and then the other track is a grant and that's $2,000. It's automatic, and so the question is, when will that money go out? And I know there's a lot of complicated stuff that has to happen behind the scenes to get that done, but the intention is to get that out as quickly as possible. And then the second track is an apply for grant. So that, in accordance with the legislation, is to be administered by the Mississippi Development Authority, and one would expect then there would be an electronic application that would either be downloaded or completed online, and then it would go through a workflow where the MDA would investigate and examine that request and then authorize those grants, I believe, from $1,000 up to $25,000 per business, and the business would have to be eligible. And so that's just kind of the 2 tracks that are going on. And expectation is the governor probably will sign that before midnight tonight to put it into law. So one of the questions I got on the text line, Senator, is there any plans to provide any sort of financial assistance to the essential workers as part of the coronavirus relief fund? And what sort of latitude do you guys have with that at the state level?
Well, I'm not really sure what the question is asking, but in terms of what we have authorized in the legislation, it goes to businesses, and when you're talking about the the barbershops and the salons and all of that, those were ones that were considered non-essential, I guess, if you will. Right. And they kind of got hurt by that. So that's why we did that. Now, that being said, I've heard the governor as recently as yesterday say that he made a mistake when defining essential versus non-essential, because all jobs are essential. Sure. And I think he gets a lot of credit for making that. acknowledgement. And, those things get made in the heat of the battle, if you will. And you got a whole bunch of information going on. And so there's recognition that all businesses are essential. And so to the point being that I don't really look at it that way, other than people have been hurt by the closures. And so we've got to get the relief to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess now, as you indicated, after this $300 million, which has been appropriated, if signed by the governor, to as grants to businesses, we got $900 million left, right, to do something with. And, of course, that in accordance with the U.S. Department of Treasury guidelines. I've read some of what is being discussed around the Capitol. What are your thoughts there, Brice, on what to do with that money?
Well, yeah. You mean with the $900 million that's there?
Right, that hasn't yet been appropriated.
Yeah. So again, I think that we're being smart about it, and there is money in there that can be appropriated later. Look, if you go look at the PPP program, the run on that, and I guess only 25% of businesses got that. We know the need is there. And so we want to make sure that we're able to come back and do that. I'm not sure what form it will take. Also, I was just meeting with some of the school districts, and, under the Federal CARES Act, they got money directly. And however, the money they got, when you spread it around all of them, it really is not that much that lasts a long time. Okay. I know we're talking about big numbers here, but when you spread it over everybody that needs help and relief, then it doesn't last very long. And so I'm sure there's going to be needs that we're going to have to address that really the federal money has not been able to fully compensate for. And, we're just going to have to be smart about it.
And so to be clear, I think it's fair to say the intent of the CARES Act, that money which was allocated to the states, $150 billion that was prorated based on population with a minimum of $1.25 billion, which is what Mississippi received, is really intended to cover incremental or extraordinary expenses incurred by the state, and including these grants for businesses, which are specified in the Treasury guidance. It's not really designed, I think it's fair to say, or the intent of Treasury to cover revenue shortfalls. That is expected to perhaps come in another piece of legislation out of Washington.
That's correct. There's limits on it. You can't use it to recover lost profits and things like that. It's just expenses. Think of it as laying out expenses, and it's a reimbursement. It's really reimbursement for what you had to outlay because of the COVID-19 and the government response to that. But it's not to be used for lost profits and things like that, which is understandable. I get it.
Sure. And there are some, as you can imagine, Brice, that believe that all of this money ought to go to the private sector, all $1.25 billion of it. And there's some that say, no, we should use and carve out a big chunk of it to build out rural broadband networks and support telecom carriers and electric cooperatives in that respect, and even going so far as to buying laptops and devices to connect for possibility of distance learning in the fall to all the students and the teachers, which would be quite the endeavor.
Well, one thing I've learned from serving on the Appropriations Committee for 8 years or since I've been in the legislature is that when there's a pot of money, people's eyes get really big, and the spending goes crazy. And that's why I'm saying we have to be smart about it. And what I have seen, and I think others have seen, is that you start spending money, and then 3 years down the road, you can't keep up the expenses and all that. Look, we've seen that after Katrina. You got people that build buildings and all that, and they don't factor that in. And it's incumbent upon us as legislators, but particularly as Republicans, to be smart about that and not open a blank checkbook without accountability. And that's just a fact.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
hear the
Brice.
music. I said Rhino's done so good that I'm gonna buy him a bowl of oyster stew when he comes down to the coast the next time.
Well, I know he'd look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you again in Jackson and perhaps on the coast. Sorry the session was cut short. I always enjoy visiting with you guys when you got work to do, and you got a lot of it right now. But appreciate you coming on today, Senator Brice Wiggins, District
Well, thanks.
52. Thanks so much.
Thanks for filling in, and we think about JT and all that, and thanks for being engaged in the process and what goes on at the Capitol. Because if we had more people doing that, we'd be all better off, to be quite honest.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thanks, appreciate it.